In this lesson, excuse me. In this lesson, we're going to learn how to add and subtract integers. So, first question, I guess, what is an integer? Well, the definition of an integer is the whole numbers and their opposites are called integers. So, what do we mean by that? Well, we know what the whole numbers are. They're 0, 1, excuse me, not 0, but 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on and so forth. So what do we mean by their opposites? Well, we mean their negative opposites. So while 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4 are part of the integers, so also are negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4. These are all part of what the group we call the integers. So one way of looking at it is negative 4, negative 3, negative 2, negative 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on are all part of the integers. And note how I wrote them out in this situation. I wrote them from their smallest number to their largest number. And obviously the integers go on in either direction, getting larger over here and smaller over here. But I just wrote them out how you would find them on a number line. Again, 0 would be in the middle, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on, because these are positive numbers. Negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, because these are negative numbers, and so on. So that's what we mean by integers, is any whole number, whether it's positive, negative, or 0, is any whole number is what an integer is. So why is adding and subtracting integers different than just adding numbers? Well, it's because of those pesky negative signs that go in front of them. So let's just think of adding in the way that we've always done. So say it's 3 plus 1. Well, if we look at that on a number line, we are at 3, and then you're moving over 1 to 4. So that's why 3 plus 1 equals 4. When we add on a number line, it means we are moving to the right. This could be the same for any number. Say I'm at 100 and I'm adding, 375. So I move over 375 spots to 475. Again, that's 100 plus 375. Again, because we're adding, we are moving to the right on the number line. So again, this all seems fairly simple so far. So why is adding and subtracting integers different? Well, now imagine, say we are adding or subtracting a negative number. In this case, we're just going to talk about adding. So say we have 1 plus a negative 3. Never mind, let's try 5 plus a negative 3. So let's find 5 on the number line. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So 5 is over here. Now we're adding a negative 3. So again, like I said, whenever we add, we move to the right on the number line. But because we are working with a negative number, and we know the negatives are on the left side, we have to switch it and go in the other direction. So if we're adding a negative, we actually move in the left direction. So now it would be 5 plus a negative 3. Well, we got to move 1, 2, 3 in the negative spots. In the negative direction, excuse me. Oh, and what does that give us? That gives us 2. So 5 plus a negative, or when you add a negative number, instead of moving to the right, as addition normally does, you actually move to the left. Seems simple enough? Okay. So now, what happens if, say, that is negative 5 plus a negative 3? Well, let's draw it out on the number line again. Say we have 0, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So we got negative 5 over here. Now, say we're adding a negative 3. Again, because it's addition, we would think we would move to the right. But since we're adding a negative number, we're actually going to move to the left 1, 2, 3 spots. And that gets us to negative 8. So that's why negative 5 minus 3 is, negative 5 plus a negative 3 is negative 8. So anytime you are adding a negative number, you have to move in the opposite direction. You have to move in the left direction. Okay, and then how would we do it if we're subtracting integers? Well, like I said, let's just think about this in number line idea. So say we have 10 minus 7. So we got 0, we go 10 over here. So if addition moves us in the right direction, then subtraction must move us in the left direction. So negative 10 minus 7, we would go over 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That takes us to 3. So again, just intuitively, if addition goes to the right, subtraction goes to the left. Again, this is nothing too complicating, but now what happens when we subtract a negative number? So 0, 10. So now we're subtracting a negative 7. So now, since subtracting takes us in the left-hand direction, but we're working with a negative number, the negative will flip that direction. So if we're subtracting a negative number, we're actually going to move in the right-hand direction, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, to a positive 17, So 10 minus a negative 7 is actually 17. So we see how we do that. Just like subtraction goes right, but subtracting a negative takes us left. Subtraction goes left, but subtracting a negative number takes us right. They're just opposites, just like we would expect. Similarly, say we have a negative 3, and we're subtracting a negative 1. Let's look at this on the number line. So 0, we got 1, 2, 3. And we are subtracting, so we're going to move in the left-hand direction, but because we're subtracting a negative number, we flip it and move in the right-hand direction. So we'll move over 1 to take us to 2. Therefore, negative 3 subtract a negative 1 gives us negative 2. So we kind of see how that works. So I guess in conclusion, if we are adding a positive number, we're going to move right. But if we're adding a negative number, it flips and moves us left. Then if we're subtracting a positive number, it moves us left. But if we're subtracting a negative number, it goes in the other direction and moves us right. Now, one hint a lot of people do to think about this is picture it this way. You have a number 10, and you are subtracting a negative number, say 3. One way people do this before they even do the math is they see two negatives next to each other. Two negatives can be thought of as making a positive. So think about it as 10 plus 3, that equals 13. Well, 10 minus a negative 3 equals 13. So, if you want to think about it that way, two negatives make a positive, and it's just simply 10 plus 3 equals 13. Again, two negatives make a positive. On the contrary, if you have a negative and a positive, think of it as subtraction. So negative and positive just makes a negative. So 10 minus 3 is equal to 7. And then that can be in either direction. So you could have a 10 minus a positive 3. Again, that just becomes a negative. 10 minus 3 is equal to 7. And then the same thing works. So 10 plus a positive 3 is equal to 13 because a plus and a plus makes a plus. So again, if you're thinking about what is in between the two numbers, a negative and a positive is actually just a negative. A negative and a negative is actually a positive. Positive and positive is positive. And then again, it can go in either direction. So same thing as a positive and a negative is equal to a negative. So that is just one trick people can use to remember how they're adding or subtracting numbers. So we'll just go through a couple of examples of our own. So example A is 10 minus a negative 8. So again, we think about this, okay, we have two negatives in the middle. Negative and negative makes a positive, so now it's just 10 plus 8 is equal to 18. Now let's try another one, say 7 minus 8. Well, that just means, okay, so that's the same as negative 7 minus a positive 8. Well, we know a negative and positive is a negative, so it's negative 7 minus 8. And then so if we're moving in the negative direction, that gives us negative 15. And then we'll go through just one more here. So say we have a negative 9 minus a negative 4. Put those together. A negative and a negative makes a positive, so negative 9 plus 4. So you're at negative 9, you're going to move in the positive direction, so the right way is negative 5. So that is just how we add or subtract integers, or adding and subtracting negative and positive numbers. So I'll give you guys a couple of seconds to work on some examples yourself. So example here would say a 8 minus negative 4, 7 plus a negative 3, then negative 3 minus a negative 5. I'll give you guys a chance to work on that right now. Okay, let's just go through each of them. So 8, so negative and negative makes a positive, so 8 plus 4 is equal to 12. 7 plus a negative 3, well, a negative and a positive is a negative, so 7 minus 3 is equal to 4. And then a negative and negative again is a positive, so negative 3 plus 5. Well, if you're at negative 3 and you're moving in the positive direction 5 spots, that is 2.